Welcome to the Advanced Sports Analytics Show here on RotoGrinders, brought to you by Jock Market. Stop throwing your money away. It's time to check out Jock Market, the app where daily fantasy becomes a stock exchange. Buy and sell shares of players in real time for real money. Download now for a 100% deposit match up to $50 using the promo code GRINDERS. And get this, if you don't turn a profit this week, Jock Market is running back their first market guarantee to cover your losses this week. So download Jock Market in the app or Play stores, or check out Jock Market, JOCKMKT.com, and use the code GRINDERS for a 100% deposit match up to $50 on your first deposit. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender Ed, Blender HG. If you want to follow me there on Twitter, joined by the man behind the dials, the numbers, the scripts that are running incessantly and forever on your computer. It is Stewart Gibson from Advanced Sports Analytics. You've been having a problem with your scripts. Do we know all the quarterbacks that are starting this week? We have a bunch of
no, I think we've got that dialed in correctly. And just rerunning through some simulation scripts, and it's usually kind of a long runtime process, so I don't know if it's I have too many applications open and it's running particularly slow today, or if there's some deeper issue in there that I need to look at after the show. But hopefully we can get that through kind of as the show unfolds, and have some fresh data to look at. But we'll work off what we have. You have to run that
on Saturdays for like if there's new news, questionable stuff. I mean, it's something that it's not like you run it once and then on Wednesday, like a lot of people look at our projections at RotoGrinders on like a Wednesday in our ownership, and it's like this isn't. I mean, you look at the injury report. Some quarterbacks may not be playing. You see the line movement, and that's why the closer it is, like I mean, truthfully, Stewart, I mean, probably the most accurate time is like after inactives on Sunday. But I'm assuming that your scripts, like as long the inactives on Sunday may not, like a lot of times probably don't matter that much. They only marginally. The backup offensive lineman is out. Does that affect like much of what you do, those simulations?
Yeah, not so much. I mean, the script's usually like a kind of like a 20-minute type thing. And I feel like now we're probably going on 40 minutes, which is a bit concerning. But yeah, I mean, it usually sets up well where you can like run something, kind of do final processing after inactives, giving it maybe 15 minutes just in case there's any kind of late stuff that trickles through. I mean, usually like offensive line type stuff doesn't have any impact unless it has like a palpable impact on, I guess, the spread or game total, something like that.
How about stuff that wouldn't affect the game total? Like we often see, often enough see, like especially in running back committee type of teams where it's like, oh, we're expecting a three-way timeshare, and then it's like, oh, Ramondre Stevenson is inactive, right? Like what that third running back. Which means like you may have originally gave them like a 10% snap share and a 6% target share, and now you have to kind of like divvy that out to either the running backs that exist or in some fashion. So if anything, I think like that the skill position players in that time period marry more than like kind of like defensive matchups and offensive line.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, what you're talking about is kind of reallocating kind of manual edit, what we do manually, or at least initiate through an automated program, but manually tweak and fine tune. You put following inactives or news around timeshares or kind of roll or pitch counts. Sometimes you hear of kind of guys come back from injury and being on some sort of snap count or limited roll. Following that, making kind of final adjustments and tweaks as warranted, and then rerunning that back through a fantasy point projection process. And then with that, rerunning ownership projections. And then once you rerun ownership projections, rerunning the kind of range of outcomes projected from a fantasy standpoint, and the simulation of kind of field lineups that could be put together, running that all through a simulation, taking random pulls from players' range of outcomes, essentially doing polls that are correlated. So like finding, we try to find like key players, and in theory, the kind of higher projected players should have kind of more weight on the likelihood of dictating kind of the game flow or kind of the correlates associated with them. So like, for example, Dak Prescott and say Cedric Wilson have some latent correlation. That being said, more times than not, the performance of Dak Prescott is going to dictate kind of the correlated outcome of Cedric Wilson, as opposed to the outcome of Cedric Wilson dictating the kind of correlated outcome of Dak Prescott. So running through that, iterating through that, about 1,000 times, it kind of adds up and, ends up taking a while. Not sure why it's running particularly slow today. Like I said, maybe too many applications open, or I don't know, haven't restarted my computer in a while, something like that. But
But even though it hasn't finished yet, we have an 11-game slate, three totals that are 50 plus. So a little bit better totals this week than last week. What game? I mean, instead of covering it like game by game, we'll be skipping around a bit. What game as a whole would you consider to be the top target on the slate?
I mean, I think Buffalo's going to be quite popular. Josh Allen projects as an exceptionally strong quarterback play. Could see like guys like Cole Beasley getting decent amount of ownership. It does kind of seem like running backs are going to dictate a good bit of, I guess, like, not that people kind of stack around running backs, but we have a few like kind of eye-popping running back values that I think are gonna soak up a good bit of ownership. But I don't know, in general, it does kind of seem like from the pass catchers fairly spread out. Like we don't have, we're not seeing like the massive kind of Cooper Kupp ownership. It does seem a bit spread out, but I would see Buffalo being as kind of one of the high target spots. Obviously, they have the great implied total, pass heavy team. The spread is quite skewed, but I feel like Buffalo is one of those teams that people don't really get super scared away by. So I would guess that will be kind of one of the chalkier builds, like something like Allen, Diggs, Beasley. What about you? Is that how you see it playing out?
Well, I mean, I see the general gist of the slate is that we have a lot of high implied team totals, but a lot of large spread games. So I'm going to be much more focused on what and if I do run backs in lineups. So like I may be much less inclined to force a guy like Corey Davis or Michael Carter into a Bill stack. Like just do Allen, Diggs, Beasley and move on with my life. But for the Bills, I don't have the Bills as highly as other teams. Dawson Knox is back. We still don't know the status of Zach Moss. He's questionable, which will make Devin Singletary a little bit better a play. I just think that I like Josh Allen, but Diggs has not shown able to maintain that 7.5K type of price tag. It seems like the Bills spread the ball around much more than people may think. We get a Gabe Davis touchdown, every once in a while. We got Sanders there, who's 5,700, a bit overpriced for the slate. Yeah, I think Beasley's going to be popular at 5,200, but the ceiling of this, the Buffalo team, it feels like I should want a Jet on this lineup, but the Jets don't even project all that well either. Like, to me, if people play this, it's most likely going to be Allen, Diggs, Beasley, but I almost feel like there's more ways for that stack to fail because of Diggs's price than it's Buffalo's fault. Like, do I want to play Beasley plus Sanders? No, because I think Sanders' route should be like 4,800 and not 5,700. And then Dawson Knox, I think, is overpriced at tight end. So it comes down to, like, I like the Bills. It's just that I think the total pricing of this Bills stack, even without the run back, makes it that they almost have a higher threshold of being in the winning GPP large field type of lineup. Because you need Diggs to put up 30 points. You need Beasley 20. You need Allen to put up 35 to 40. And I could see Allen putting up 35 to 40, and like no one that's on the team like is necessary, right? You may get a Beasley 18. You get Emmanuel Sanders 16. You get Diggs with 22. And then you're sitting there going, well, Allen's the top quarterback on the slate by points, but really, did I need to have any of these other receivers? I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. And, it's also kind of a weird week with none of the premier tight ends on the slate. Like that can be a way that kind of popular stacks emerge. Just tight end regularly is kind of like a keystone type position. And, naturally when there are kind of tight ends that are emerging as supreme value or tight ends in, great kind of game environments, like, we frequently see with like Andrews or Kelsey or Waller, but with none of these guys on the slate, like it is a little bit of a, I'd say a very kind of unclear, murky positional group, and I think it's going to be difficult to kind of get very comfortable stacks that rely heavily on like the tight end as kind of a deployed stack piece. I don't know. We have stuff as of now coming in fairly flat as far as ownership, aside from that running back position.
Well, the highest implied team total team on the slate is the Dallas Cowboys. That's the highest total game on the slate currently, 55 total. Cowboys favored by 9.5, even after their horrible performance last week. 32.5 implied team total for the Cowboys, 22.5 for the Falcons. Looking at this game, ownership wise, I mean, Zeke's going to be in the 20s probably. Mari Cooper is still there, 6,200. We may get Michael Gallup back in the Dallas receiving core at 4,000, which obviously now spreads out kind of, targets a little bit wider than has been the past couple of weeks. Dak projects very well, but I mean, it's the highest team total slate. What are your thoughts on this game? The weird thing about this game is that I'm interested in both the passing and the running game. We're going to have a situation at running back that we're going to have I think we're going to have 2 or 3 really chalky running backs, but we're also going to have 6 to 8 running backs that also project well that aren't those 3. And I'm looking, to me, on this slate to take advantage of that. It's weird to say that we'll get to Dearness Johnson. Maybe not him, but we'll have Najee Harris. We have James Conner. I want to find a way. Can I play stacks in a way where I could get the pivots at running back and less so at wide receiver? Because I think the wide receiver ownership is being much more spread out. So I like Zeke in this game, but I don't like Zeke I don't want to do a Dak Zeke Cooper. I just don't see Dak hitting a ceiling if Zeke has 30 points and vice versa. So I have no problem playing the other side of this game and doing something like Ryan, Gage, Pitts, Elliott. But if I don't play Elliott in this game, I'd much rather take the Cowboys side passing wise. So I'm not a big fan of the Ryan side and then using Cooper or Lamb. Like, I feel as if this game shoots out passing wise, Dak has a way higher ceiling than Matt Ryan. But if the Cowboys control the game and Zeke has 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, that Dak fails, but Ryan could still throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I do like that the kind of the Dallas passing side. I kind of struggle though with what, like, Amari stands out, I think, is just a great value who should get a good bit of ownership. Probably the most owned pass catcher. I'm kind of excluding Zeke as a pass catcher, even though of course he will get some passes.
Right.
But I get a little unsure of what to do after that. Like, I think Lamb, just with the price, and I don't think you're going to get a huge ownership discount on him versus Cooper. Like,
we have him drastically different. We have him. We've seen Lamb currently at like 3% on because he's 7K.
Okay, we have a slightly higher ownership on him, but at 3%, I think he would be a very compelling play there. If you're concerned that the ownership might be higher, I think just given his price, there is like some ownership sensitivity there. Dalton Schultz is he's not, I would say, would not priced super desirably, as 5,000 for Schultz with Gallup back in the mix seems quite tough, but I think will be one of the lower owned pieces in the Dallas receiving core. So that might be like a kind of pay up to get contrarian spot I might look towards. And then on the Atlanta side, we've got, Patterson is going to be fairly owned, but we still have kind of good simulation scores on him. He's showing up as kind of a plus EV play, even at the ownership level that he's at. So I do wonder if kind of like the spread obviously doesn't suggest a kind of Atlanta winning game script, but do wonder with kind of high projected ownership on Zeke, if maybe a different way to play it would be Dallas passing, Atlanta skewing a bit more run heavy than anticipated, and using Patterson running, and also of course kind of the pass catching floor that he has, just given the role that he's in with Atlanta right now.
My problem with that is that it's from a intuitive sense, if the Falcons are controlling the game on the ground, the whole game fails. Like, I could see get Dallas controlling the game on the ground and the game's still not failing. But I think if Mike Davis has 15 touches, Dak didn't get there and Cooper didn't get, this game ends up being 17-10, like that type. But like, I just don't see it. That in that case, that's like Patterson. To me, Patterson's not a running back. Patterson is a gadget, a full service kind of X-wing type of player that if he's doing well, that means he did well on 2 big plays. So it's like, I'm not using the running back. I'm not saying that like, Patterson's grounded 20 for 124, and like, he's not that type of guy.
Yeah, that's true. I guess he doesn't get deployed as a traditional running back. You would think though then that, like, still a kind of, like you said, a passing oriented shootout would fare Patterson fairly. He could succeed in that type of game environment.
But you understand what I'm saying, that if it's a passing type shootout, I'd much rather have Dak as the head of the stack than Ryan. Like, I don't mind Dak plus Cooper plus Gallup or Lamb plus Cordell Patterson as the run back, because it's not him running the ball. But all I'm saying is that on the Zeke, if I have Zeke, then I don't mind Ryan, and I don't want Dak and Zeke together. So like, that's like, if it's going to be a passing shootout, like, Dak's going to outscore Matt Ryan. So I'm going to build from the Dak side. So that's really the main point there. It's not the other pieces. Is that, like, do I play Dak? Do I play Zeke? And if I play Zeke, then I have the option now of playing the Ryan side of the game, or I have the option to play just play Zeke as a one-off and just move on with my life.
Yeah. I do, where like, if Zeke is having like a big, 20 plus carry game, do you think I mean, he would just have to break off some big runs and just Dallas would have to move fairly quickly for, Ryan to have kind of unless he's, I guess, just getting touchdowns to cap off fairly quick Dallas drives, which of course is within, the range of possibilities.
Right. And Zeke could catch 6 or 7 balls out of the backfield. So if on a DraftKings PPR type of site, it's like, I'm not looking for 25 carries, 106. I'm not looking for a Derrick Henry line. I'm looking for 18 carries, 110 yards, 5 catches for 40 yards and 2 touchdowns. And it's like that's a 30+ point game right there.
Yeah. It does seem like Zeke kind of is at least recency bias back to last week. Seems like the more carries he gets, it's almost like a worse kind of game environment for him. Like he has so many of these games where he just gets like, Dallas just runs him into the offensive line 20 to 25 times. And, his truly great games are like not so much fewer carries, but just more of a like pass oriented type role. So,
the third team that has a 30+ implied team total are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's a 51 total game. The Bucs are on the road, favored by 9.5, 30.5 implied team total for the Bucs, 20.5 for the Washington football team. We don't have AB is out, Gronk is out, but these prices for the Buccaneers have come up. I mean, Godwin 7,100, Fournette 6,100. I mean, he's been in that range. Mike Evans is 6,900. I don't have this game projected that well, but I mean, it's the Buccaneers. They throw the ball a lot. Brady plus Godwin. I mean, Godwin and Evans are getting up to the point where I don't know if you could play them together, like for their ceilings to spend 14,000 combined on 2 wide receivers. Maybe you play Brady or Howard instead. But I mean, this is one of those things where it's very similar to Josh Allen. I have no qualms about using Tom Brady in this spot. I just have problems with is the double stack necessary? Should I be playing just him single stacked? Should I play him should I play Brady, Fournette, Godwin, something like that? And I'm also concerned about the run back on the other side because I mean the obvious one is McLaurin, but he's 7,600. Like this game stack as a whole, like adds up pretty expensive. I mean, like, because how does this turn into a shootout without Terry McLaurin having 150 and 2? Like he's the obvious guy. But I mean, you're not playing Devontae Adams in that lineup as a one-off. You ain't getting Najee Harris into that lineup if you're doing that. So is the run back here for the Washington football team like worth it? And if that's not worth it, is the game worth it?
Yeah, I mean, we are approaching kind of feel like 2 years ago we kind of were converging to where Metcalf and Lockett became palatable at the price they're at, and then just got to the point where you just couldn't play them together on account of just being so expensive. And yeah, certainly we are converging towards that with some of these Tampa Bay receivers, and the DraftKings can get out ahead of the Brown and Gronkowski injury to kind of have pricing bake that in, such that I do agree with you. It is a bit tough to consider them as a pair. I think it's certainly a fine spot to go, just single stack like Brady and Godwin. Their price is up, but the ceiling is quite high with both these guys. You're not going to get them at huge ownership on account of that efficient price. And then on the bring back side, I mean, be interested to see like if Logan Thomas is activated for the game. I think he could be an interesting bring back and kind of fill that tight end position that you have to fill. Be great to get it with someone who's mildly correlated to the core stack that you're building around. McKissick in these spots has kind of put up high scores just on his receiving value. I think that could be a spot to look. But yeah, I mean, I typically like kind of the Tampa Bay side. They just don't quite get the ownership that they warrant. And, I think just they skew so pass heavy. It's a team that I don't think, we should ever be afraid of in terms of game scripts, forcing them to go run heavy or anything. I mean, with Brady and Arians, they're just airing it out, kind of independent of the score competitiveness of the game. So I think a spot I'd be interested in looking at for sure.
Is there another game that you would consider to be a plus as far as your projections and simulations?
Yeah, so I think one where there's going to be heavy ownership on the running back, and the game script, I guess, kind of scripts out as likely to be run heavy, but I think there is going to be not low, but certainly suppressed ownership on the passing attack is Indianapolis versus Jacksonville. The natural game flow, I think, projects as super run heavy for Jonathan Taylor. But if Jacksonville is able to keep it competitive, I am intrigued by like Carson Wentz, Pittman stacks. Don't have, though, not totally sure what to do on the other side with Jacksonville. Like Dan Arnold seems fine from a value standpoint, but will probably be one of the more, if not the most owned tight ends. It could be a spot where you leave kind of bringbacks alone and just go with, well, I don't know. I mean, the thesis is kind of around Jacksonville being able to push the game. For Wentz and Pittman to have a successful game, you have to imagine that Jacksonville is going to put up some resistance and some scoring, I guess, to kind of keep the game competitive. So it would feel like you would kind of have to bring back a Jacksonville guy. So that would be one spot I would look to as kind of an underowned sleeper stack, if you will.
Oh, it's weird. I view it the complete opposite way. I think that's going to be overowned.
Okay.
I think Taylor's going to be 20 plus. I think Pittman's going to be 20 plus. I think Wentz is going to be, to me, this is the complete opposite. I have the complete opposite mentality to you, that I think this game is overowned. The total has gone down from 51 to 47.5. To me, my plus game, this game has come up 5 points since open. It is the Vikings at the Chargers. It's only a 3.5 point spread. The Chargers are a home favorite. But I like this in a different way. I consider this to be a high variance game. This is a game that could be really quick or really slow. The obvious side of the game is the Chargers. You stack up Herbert with Allen and Cook. You could even pair Herbert with Eckler because he catches enough balls to do so. I don't think the Vikings receivers are going to be owned. Like, I mean, we have like Jefferson and Thielen at like, what, 2-3% or something? I mean, Cook may be owned, but like if you're going to play a stack of this spend, I want to pay cheap running backs. Like that's my common build to begin with. I'd rather pay down at running back than up at running back for GPPs. So if I'm going to use an expensive running back, it's either going to be in conjunction with a stack, or it's going to be, basically it's a conjunction with a stack or not use them. So like Dalvin Cook is just 100 more than Najee Harris. So, but I don't think I get enough leverage by just going, I'm going to play the same lineup and just play Cook instead of Harris. But Cook inside of a Herbert plus Allen type of lineup, I could do. But what I like a lot more is, instead of paying $8K for a running back, why can't I play Herbert plus Allen plus Cook plus Thielen or Jefferson? And then I could play some 5K level running backs and still have a good enough lineup where I'm not spending so much money in one game. And we do have the Chargers ownership, fairly high. So it's not like they're under the radar, but they're going to be about the same owned as the Colts, I think. So I think Taylor and Pittman will be similarly owned to Eckler and Allen. And I think the ceiling of this game is much higher than the Colts game against the Jaguars.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. We have, I think, a divergence in ownership on some of the Indianapolis passing pieces. So if I'm looking at y'all's ownership and y'all are projecting Wentz to be very highly owned, at the ownership I'm kind of seeing, for you guys. Yeah, I mean, double digit wins ownership, I think would be tough to eat.
Right. So you see it from my perspective. I don't know if that's how it shakes out, but I mean, if you had the choice between like Indianapolis and the Chargers, like I think Herbert and the Chargers have a much higher ceiling. At
Yeah.
similar, if the ownership was that way, if you tell me that Wentz is, if that the culture half is owned as the Chargers, then I'm with you. So I'm the stuff that I'm looking at is like it seems like it's going to be about the same, and I just see that this game is much more competitive on both sides of the ball than having to rely on the Jaguars to make it competitive enough that they're not just feeding Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines the ball 32 times this game.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, if Jacksonville's not able to keep it competitive, Indianapolis is one of those teams that I think can, get pretty run focused and, just really suck the life out of a game. I do have one more plus, looking towards the later session, with the return of Russell Wilson, I see that as being, Seattle being a really compelling spot. I don't see many of these Seattle guys getting a ton of ownership. Like, I guess Metcalf will generate like some, but I mean, not to any degree that, I would be wildly concerned. And, we know that this Seattle offense is one that can go. And I just think it has some really natural bring back opportunities. Expect the game in Vegas projects the game to be fairly competitive. You could go, obviously Adams is kind of the conventional bring back, but even like bring back Aaron Jones, I think could be a route to go. And you just look for like a Wilson plus Metcalf or Wilson plus Lockett stack, bring back with kind of that, assuming Aaron Rodgers plays, which Vegas total and spread seems to indicate. To me, that seems like a good spot to go to. That so I have them kind of tabbed as one of my plus teams on the slate.
Yeah, I'm with you. That I was going to point that out also. Devontae Adams is probably going to be the most owned wide receiver on the slate, but he's most likely going to be owned as a one-off. So in order to mitigate that, I think playing Wilson plus one of Metcalf or Lockett plus Gerald Everett at 2,600 at tight end. Because if Wilson's going to be the top scoring quarterback, he's throwing for 4 or 5 touchdowns. It's going to be one of those classic Russell Wilson doesn't get the 300-yard bonus. He only throws 28 times. Yet, he's 23 of 28 for 240 yards and 4 touchdowns type of games. I'm not scared of the Packers defense. People are going to shy away from playing the Seahawks because, of Russell coming back from injury. People will be more inclined to play a Godwin or a Keenan Allen over a DK Metcalf. But you told me DK Metcalf goes 7 for 180 and 2 touchdowns in any game. I'm not shocked. And if he's going to come in at 8 to 10% ownership, I see no reason why not to take the shot. I think the concern in this game would be that you're dealing with 2 teams that want to play slow, right? You need the big play to happen. But the pieces in this game between Adams, Jones, Metcalf, like there are big plays baked into this game if they happen. So if they happen, this game could go way over its total, or it could be, obviously, this is one of those high variance games. It could be Chris Carson and Aaron Jones running the ball and AJ Dillon running the ball and 70% running plays. And you're sitting there going, can't believe I spent half my salary and half my lineups on this. But I think comparison to the ownership, I think this is a good way to play Devontae Adams in a low-owned way. And even if you want to play, if you don't want to stack, why not play Adams with Metcalf or Lockett? Don't play Russell Wilson. Don't play Aaron Rodgers. And just say, like, if Adams has a big game, maybe Metcalf or Lockett has a big game. And then you get, you go for Dak Prescott, you go for Justin Herbert, you go for Josh Allen, you build some other type of lineup instead. But yeah, but Stewart, yeah, I'm with you on the Seattle Packers game. Do you think you could name, I mean, you obviously have your own ownership in front of you, a stack that is surprisingly going to go higher owned than you would expect? Like, this is probably the first time this year this quarterback is going to get any significant ownership. Do you know what team that is?
Yeah, I think we're gonna agree on this as a team to be underweight on. Is it Ben Roethlisberger in Pittsburgh? Yeah,
That's correct. That's correct. Because of Najee Harris's ownership, and he catches balls out of the backfield. Deontay Johnson projects well, right? James Washington has been on the field a lot. So, like, as a cheap wide receiver for 3,500, Pat Fryermuth has shown that Ben throws to him at the tight end spot at 3,900. Depends whether or not Eric Ebron is back. He's questionable, but to me, this is like it's almost too straightforward. Like, if anyone plays this game, like, it's like Ben plus Deontay plus Fryermuth plus Swift, right? Or you could play Ben with Najee, or you play Najee with Swift. I mean, like, it makes it's more condensed. So yes, it's more attractive, but do you trust the Steelers offense even against the Lions? Do you trust Ben Roethlisberger to put up a big game at this ownership when Deontay Johnson may be the second highest owned wide receiver on the entire slate? It feels to me like if I do play this game, I'd rather play them as secondary correlations and not play Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, we don't have Ben Roethlisberger as like heavy, like we have him at like 5 or 6%, but most of the season he's been like 1 or 2%. So like at that raised, this could easily just be an ugly game.
Yeah, I mean, it from like a game stacking standpoint, I'm seeing 42.5 on the game total. I mean, it's just a egregiously low game total. I'm not sure that there's just enough like projectable scoring there to support like a full on double stack game stack, type lineup build. And it's not like these guys are like super cheap. It's not like 42.5 and like Denver, like Bridgewater, cheap like Denver stack or something like that. I mean, these are certainly not like the premier priced players at their position, but it's not like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel with like a Denver, New England type build. And I mean, I also just like am not really confident in the Detroit side to be able to keep this game competitive and promote an environment where Pittsburgh's going to be able to support like 2 receivers. It would be a spot that I would prefer to be underweight on, which not like Xing out say Johnson or Harris or Swift from the player pool, but I mean, if you're going to be underweight on a kind of Big Ben Pittsburgh stack, I mean, that's essentially just not playing the Pittsburgh stack and maybe just looking towards kind of one-off secondary correlations.
Stewart, lastly, last game I wanted to talk about. This seems like a perfect spot for you. It's a perfect spot to play the Brown stack when Dearness Johnson is probably going to be the highest owned player on the entire slate, with Nick Chubb out and Dearness Johnson being 4,700. Baker Mayfield, the natural leverage would be to play the passing game. Actually, the natural leverage would be to play the Patriots running game as the bring back on a Mayfield stack. The projections that I have for aggregated across makes that unwise decision. But from a leverage perspective, like if Damian Harris plays, like he's barely going to be owned at 5,900. Mayfield, Landry, Hooper, Harris is like the ultra direct leverage point because Landry's still going to get ownership. Myers is going to get some ownership. I mean, logically, it makes sense, but like this game has like a 44 total. Like, are these the 2 teams that are going to be like, you're going to play a GPP and this is going to be the winning? Like, even if you get like, what I'm saying is that even if Dearness Johnson has a bad game, right? 14 for 70 with no touchdowns or something like that. Well, that to me, that means that it's quite possible no one in this game gets there anyway. Like, it's not one of those situations where, the Browns are down by 3 touchdowns, so they're just chucking the ball all the time. The Browns aren't that type of team to begin with. And the Patriots have Mac Jones, and they run the ball a lot. So Patriots aren't the type of team unless they're playing the Jets. Even when they played the Jets, it was all rushing touchdowns. Do you see that? Is the leverage even worth doing? Do you think the ceiling's high enough for the Browns to just like, I'm going to pivot off of Johnson. I'm going to play the Browns passing game. It sounds like something that, because it's the Browns, right? That it sounds like a logical move, but from a numbers perspective, it's an 11-game slate, and is this going to be the game? Because you need both Johnson to fail and the game to succeed. It almost feels like if I were to do that, I might as well just play Johnson in the lineup to begin.
Yeah, it's like we have positive scores on both the quarterbacks. I get a little lost with what to do though at the skill position. outside of Landry and Myers, like there's just not a single one of these pass catchers that I have any sort of confidence in. Maybe like you mentioned Hooper. I mean, I think like
Njoku,
DPJ would, but they really don't project well. Like aside from Landry and Myers, like it's really a terribly projecting game from a skill position standpoint.
And also Stewart with Landry and Myers, they may project well from a median standpoint, but their ceiling ranges are not they're not the best of. These aren't big play. Landry isn't, catching 80-yard bombs, and Myers only catches 2-point conversions in the end zone. So like, they seem like, it almost seems like the three main pieces of this game, Johnson, Landry, and Myers, are like, these are cash game type of plays. And I just like, I'm just going to, a Jacoby Myers one-off, he's going to get there with 32 points. Like, that's really not within his range of outcomes. Like that's in his like upper 5%, but not his upper 20%.
Yeah.
So you're not going to do the Mayfield stack.
No, I think not showing as of now as a kind of stack to prioritize, an under owned stack to prioritize. So as it sits right now, I don't know if I can get this freaking script to run through.
It's not done yet. It's not even done yet.
I restarted it. There's some sort of glitch or something. So I've restarted it. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe upon rerunning it, but no, I don't think enough has changed with the whole Cleveland setup to really expect much movement as of now. That's not a spot I have highlighted. I mean, I do find it though more compelling than say this Pitt Detroit game. Like, it's just you're gonna get less ownership and it's slightly higher total. But I mean, the total is also like we've had weeks as of late where 44 or 45.5 feels like it could be palatable when essentially all the games are 49 or lower. But we're kind of back to this slate where we have a few heavy hitting games. These kind of 46 and below, and not even to set like an arbitrary cutoff or anything, but some of these lower tier game totals become less appealing when there's this mix of kind of high total games to choose from.
Right. When the Browns have an implied team total of 21.5, and we were talking about teams that have implied team totals that are more than a touchdown over that, like why? Where's the ceiling? It's like I understand the strategic logic, but I don't think it's in the game stack. If you're how do I get leverage off of Dearness Johnson? Well, then just play another Brown, or just do, but don't stack the game. I'm going to say this, and that's going to be the game that goes 43-28, right? It's the way it always is. But once your script is done, Stewart, I'm assuming the information that comes out of it will be in your Substack.
Yeah, that's the end goal there, to get that to run through and to have the data for the Substack. So yeah, if we ever get this thing to run through, we'll be putting out a Substack. I feel pretty confident that it should finish before the end of the day, and therefore there will be a Substack before the end of the day. But if we run into some unforeseen issues, we'll have it out well in advance of the Sunday kickoff, and we'll be running through a lot of the same data that is discussed on this show, and talking through stacks to overweight, stacks to underweight, and some deeper stacks to really just consider it all that might, be nearly off the radar. So encourage you guys to check that out. And if you just follow our Twitter, we'll have posts when that goes live. So yeah, encourage you guys to check that out if you're so inclined.
That's at AS Analytics DFS on Twitter. Stewart's at Start Gibson on Twitter. I'm at Blender HD. And if you're playing on FanDuel, make sure you sign up for the DFS OGs League, right? It's a Week 10 contest for FanDuel. You compete with Beer Makers Fan, Head Chopper, and Notorious. There's a link in the description for that. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube and you want to hear the podcast version, you can just sign up and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts to the RotoGrinders Daily Fantasy Football podcast feed. Get all the content throughout the course of the week that we put out here at RotoGrinders, and rate and review it on iTunes. It'll be appreciated. So for Stewart Gibson, I'm Jordan Cooper, and that's been another edition of the Advanced Sports Analytics Show here on RotoGrinders.com.